Yes, we're live.
Working? Okay, Raju, all yours. We're ready to start. We have about 23 people online, and the rest will be joining on video.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Les. A very good evening to all of you, whoever has joined here. Good evening to the panelists and all the others who have joined to listen in and perhaps even contribute in some way, time permitting, of course. It is kind of significant that we are reminded that when we start this kind of an event, that even though it is named the Wows and Woes of teaching online, we by default start with the woes that something doesn't go live on YouTube immediately. So the woes come in first, and then when you overcome the woes, then you have the vows, right? Uh, we are going to discuss something that is uh, very very real today. We None of us was actually prepared for all this. There came overnight a kind of situation where we had to switch from one mode of living to another mode of living, one mode of learning to another mode of learning, one mode of teaching to another mode of teaching. And during the last 6 months, we have gathered a lot of experiences on our way. So, this evening, we have a panel of teachers from different schools, and I want to make it very clear right at the beginning that the Dalhousie Institute, apart from doing musical evenings every Friday, every Monday, and sometimes on Saturdays, also periodically does something for the cerebral exercise. And it is in tune with the name that the club has. It is the Dalhousie Institute. So it is a place of learning in any case. So these sessions have helped us to think about a lot of issues and try and see how the way forward can be made better. And today also, we want to have this kind of a discussion, a free flowing discussion, not a prepared speech by any of these teachers. All of them are going to share their experiences over the last 6 months in this new mode of teaching online. And we are going to consciously keep aside the fact of who is actually from which school. We will mention it because that is a part of the identity, but it is not an exercise in saying our school was the first to start this, our school excelled in doing this, and so on. It is not that kind of an exercise. It is also not an exercise in which we want to keep on cribbing and complaining and putting in a list of grievances of how difficult it has been in the last 6 months teaching online. So we are trying to draw from the positives of our experiences, not neglecting the negatives at the same time. So let us see what we come up with. It is going to be personal experiences shared, which may help some of the others who have tuned in today, or there might be some comments later on, time permitting, which may also come in useful for the panelists who are here. Right. So, as panelists, we have, and I would like to introduce you to the panelists for this evening. I will start with Barry Philip Antonis. He's an alumnus of St. Xavier's School and College, Calcutta, a teacher since 1989. He has taught in schools like St. Mary's School, Don Bosco School, Calcutta Boys School, and currently is a senior school coordinator and teacher of English for classes 11 and 12 at Sri Sri Academy. He's a quiz master, quizzer, debate moderator, anchor, and MC, director and scriptwriter of multiple school plays, trainer in public speaking, co editor of Cues, a book of prose once prescribed for the ISC board exams. So he brings in a vast experience with him in various kinds of fields, which have now turned online. Then we have our next panelist, Devjani Boshak. Devjani is a teacher with South Point School since 1998. She's an MA in physics with electronics, and this year she has been allotted class 5 for teaching. So that still counts as a primary school. Now, she has also a few research papers to her credit, plus a brief stint at an engineering college at BIT Mesra, teaching solid state physics. But what we are going to hear from her is something in the solid state of dealing with class fives when she is teaching mathematics to them. Then, as the next panelist, we have Trenas Mogrelia, is a Loreto girl all the way, having spent the major part of her life in this institution, which she calls her first home. I don't know whether she sticks to that even during the period of this lockdown, whether that is still her first home or the second one. She feels blessed being in a career that she enjoys so much, where no 2 days are alike. Yes, no 2 days are alike, and where she is learning something every new day from her students who keep her feeling young and motivated. She has taught every nonsense subject. Sorry, my age catching up with me. That was not nonsense subject, that is non science subject in her teaching career in various schools. At Loreto House, she teaches political science and sociology for plus two students and is currently also the senior coordinator. And finally, we have Mr. Leslie De Gama, who is currently the junior vice president at the Dalhousie Institute and has a teaching career spanning 42 years, with 21 years at St. Xavier's, teaching multiple subjects, including mathematics and computers. As head of training at SchoolNet India, he worked with teachers across India, designing newer models of teaching. As an independent learning and development consultant, he has been helping institutions to get operational with teaching online using the flipped classroom model. Leslie is a Google certified educator specializing in G Suite for teaching. So these are the panelists that we have, and uh, let us see what comes out of their experiences. I would like to go to Barry first in that order again. So, Barry, you see, you have been teaching English for the classes 11 and 12, and you have been doing other kinds of activities like quizzing, debating, etc. also. Now, in switching over to the online teaching format, uh, do you see any kind of difference that you have had to adapt yourself to? And if so, what has been that experience?
Thank you, Rajuda. Good evening, everyone. I would first like to mention that I'm a bit of a Luddite. I have shunned technology all my life. And in the middle of March, I was forced to adopt it. So our computer experts in school taught us how to handle Zoom. They taught us how to handle Edmodo, a platform on which you can, set assignments. And we were ready to go. We had a few workshops, we had a few practice sessions, and I, with the enthusiasm of a child and the innocence of a child, I launched into it on March 31st itself. I was the first person in school to take an online class.
Did you do it with
And
the naughtiness of a child also?
I wish I did.
Yeah.
And on that very occasion, I was Zoom bombed. I never knew that word even existed. Zoom bombed, but an intruder came and disrupted the class. I had no option but to cancel the class. And then overnight, I learned what are the various safety protocols I must follow whilst taking a Zoom class. It's been a novel experience. I have learned a lot. I now swear by technology. What we have achieved online in the last 6 months is astounding because we have given our students a full school experience. On Mondays and Tuesdays, we have assemblies online. We have a 4-period workday, each period of 50 minutes with a 20-minute break in between. And we have extracurricular activities on Friday after school hours from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. We have conducted debates online. We have conducted quizzes online. We've conducted so many projects online. And they have been so successful. I know that this is the way of the future. In future, if we can never assemble in school because of something like, inclement weather, or even a hartal, a political strike, we have the wherewithal to continue with our education. Education will never stop, either on campus or online. Along with the students, I have learned so much. It's been a novel experience for me, and I must say, I'm a wiser person, I'm a richer person today because I have adopted technology.
Okay. Barry, thank you for those opening comments. I think technology will tell you bravo for that. Uh, now we will move on to Devjani. Devjani, Barry just now said that he has kind of adopted technology, and he is glad that he has. I want to ask you, Devjani, do you think that this teaching online is advantageous for certain subjects and not so advantageous for certain other subjects? Devjani, would you like to comment on that?
Good evening, everyone. To begin with, I want to say that I'm extremely honored to be here today, sharing the screen with stalwarts like Leslie and experienced teachers like Barry and Pranas. I also extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of DI, especially my friend and professional brother, I should say sister, right? Shaheen Fayaz, for giving me this opportunity. Well, as to your question, Mr. Raman, what I'd like to say is just like Barry said, I have learned a lot too. Yes, definitely technology was a part. I got this opportunity to learn all these online modalities, something that I had no idea of. That is number one. That's of course there. And in the process, what I have learned is to deliver more within less time. So, what your question about a particular subject being more beneficial than another subject is something I would not like to touch upon, in the sense, you cannot justify that one subject is easier to do online than the other. What I feel is, uh, it's the age group that matters also. I teach very young children, and these children, for them the use of electronic devices is restricted. They're not allowed to use it always. So my children were initially really excited about using the electronic device as a mode of learning. I mean, it became legal for them, sort of. And since I teach maths, as far as maths is concerned, I felt that the ones who are better, who are good at it, at the subject, are improving. They're becoming better. Whereas the ones who have this numerophobia, for them it isn't that beneficial, because when we are physically present in a class, we tend to give more attention to these little ones, these kids. We throw in a smile here, we give a pat there. So this is what is lacking here.
But you can throw in a smiley here also.
Yes. Okay, smiley, I mean, electronic smiley, does it? I really don't know how much that effective it will be.
Okay.
But yes, of course, we can.
Yeah,
Sure.
Barry, I'll come back to you after you do an initial round with everybody. Yeah, I've noticed that your hand. Um, we'll move on to Frenaz now. Now, what I did not mention about Frenaz earlier was that she is an MPhil in political science, also with a B.Ed degree, and long before she started dealing with the keyboards of a computer, she has been dealing very, very efficiently with the keyboard of a piano and is a very well accomplished piano player, which is something one can say of our other panelist, Leslie, also, not only by way of pianist, but also a musician established in other forms of music too. So, Frenaz, now Debjani said that the age group sometimes matters. So I would like to ask you the pace at which the teaching and the learning takes place online, is that different from the in class experience? Say, suppose you have been able to cover a particular topic in 2 periods. in an in-class situation, do you think you're taking a longer time yet now while teaching online, or is it the same?
Yes, I first need to make a disclaimer. I'm not an accomplished pianist. That was history and not
Yeah,
anymore.
but then if it is
But
seventh grade, if it is seventh grade in piano, it is accomplished. And I do know that because I am a governing committee member of the Calcutta School of Music.
yeah.
Okay, you can
So,
go ahead.
yeah. I think that a lot depends on which level you teach. Now, I teach at the +2 level where our children are already very techno savvy and their learning process is quite different from a primary school. So, for them, I think this has worked because we definitely are far more efficient with our time. And we teach board years where we are always struggling to finish the syllabus. And surprisingly, with much less time, we have 4 classes a week as compared to the 7 classes that we would have had in school. And we have about the same time, but we sort of use every second of our time, and everyone knows that the clock is ticking, and because we are on Zoom and at 40 minutes it's just going to stop, the class is going to end, so we are very conscious about not wasting a second. And as a result, I think that we have been able to cover a fair amount of ground. So in terms of time efficiency, I have no problems with this medium. It has definitely helped, and we have been able to keep pace.
And how about the flexibility
Flexibility in terms of teaching?
in terms of timings of teaching?
Yes,
Not having to
definitely.
commute.
Oh, yes. If you're talking about other issue, there's flexibility about the fact that the children are just probably getting up from bed and sitting straight in front of their screens without bothering to really get dressed too well. They just have half of themselves being shown. So uh, they don't have to get up that much earlier. There is also flexibility that if supposing you want to schedule an extra class or you need to do something more, you can schedule it, which you would never have been able to do in school. That staying back after school for extra classes, which often happens with the board years, is not there. It is far more convenient. And of course, the use of technology has come right into the classroom. So,
Mhm.
the world is at your fingertips. You can just get online in the course of the class, which was not always possible in a classroom because you needed to have the smart TV or a TV screen or a monitor, which is not necessarily there in every classroom.
Mhm.
So, from that point of view, it has really helped the teaching process.
Okay, thank you, Frenaz. We'll get back to you, of course. Do listen in to the other panelists because you may not agree with one or the other thing that they say, and you're free to come back and say that I do not agree with that, and because that is the kind of free-flowing discussion that we would like to have, and not our heads like we teach the students in school and say yes, ma'am, all the time, right? Okay, we go to Leslie De Gama now, who has been teaching the teachers and how to get online and offline. And he has been also controlling the technology as far as the Dalhousie Institute is concerned for all our online programs. So, Leslie, what do you have to say about the great advantages of teaching online?
Okay, my like you said, I'm not teaching directly in a classroom. I'm actually teaching teachers, and therefore I'm affecting probably many hundreds of kids. I think the first thing that's happened is that teachers have begun to realize over the last few months that uh, adapting is not as good as adopting. And one of the things that has happened is what Baddy said is people have adapted, but initially everybody rushed into Zoom primarily because they wanted to replicate the classroom and get as close to face video conferencing as possible. The technology failed in many ways, not only by Zoom bombing, but also by students complaining that they didn't have the devices or they were using their parents' devices and parents required them. So these kind of things. So what happened was a certain amount of adaptation did take place where people junked the chalk and talk in favor of giving online sessions or maybe offline or what is now known as asynchronous data management, where they actually send in uh, uh, you know projects and things like that for the kids to do whenever they have the time. And this has particularly worked, and I'm very happy to say that it works in the so-called privileged schools which many of us represent, it also works in schools which do not have these privileges, where the whole families uh, actually sharing one mobile phone, one smartphone. So it has to go through, and kids, there may be 2 or 3 kids in the house. So staggering that time, not having to see the teacher online all the time, is also a way that schools are gradually evolving. This is what I feel is a great wow. Of course, for the teachers, I think everybody's learned a lot of classroom management, because you can't sort of reach out and grab that kid anymore. You can't sort of look him in the eye.
No,
You've only got a screen. So
that's true. Firnaz was earlier saying that the teachers can get up from bed and just straight away come for classes because they show only the upper half. But that's true for the teachers too.
Not the teachers, the
They
students.
also show only the upper half, right?
yeah, but
Not
today,
the
True.
teachers.
Okay,
people are
right.
using hand signals. People are using question and answer online. They're using the chat box. They're getting a lot of things done which they actually could not do in a class of 50 or 60 students. Today, it's actually a little easier with online work, because they can push things directly into the students' mailbox and expect it done. Whereas, writing on the board and getting the children to copy it down, that was a lot of time wasting. And
So
of course,
in the case of a few inhibited children in physical class, say who perhaps are a little shy raising their hand or talking or raising a question in front of other children, do you think this helps if they quietly put it into the chat box and you notice it that there is a question over there?
I think that Johnny wants to answer that.
Yes, yes, Devjani.
Yes, I have noticed in my class, the introverted ones are coming up more. They are answering. I feel, that inherent fear of being judged by the peers is something that, that's not there when they answer from behind the screen.
Or the
I've noticed.
menacing stare of the teacher is no longer there, right?
Not the teacher, Mr. Raman.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
coming,
We,
yeah.
it's, I mean, they're coming up better.
Okay.
Definitely not the teacher. The teacher is not to be blamed.
Okay. Barry had his hand up earlier. So, Barry, then I'll come back to you, Les. Yeah.
Thank you. No, Dibjani had mentioned something, and it's ironical that just a few months before the lockdown started, I was part of some special assemblies on cybersecurity, on internet trolling, and we were imploring the children to cut down on screen time. That was the message: cut down on screen time.
You see, that is the best
And
WhatsApp
now,
message. That's the best WhatsApp message that the students are circulating nowadays.
and that
Say,
is flown in our face.
serves you people right that you were not allowing us to take the mobile phone to school. Now you're egging us on to pick up our mobiles and attend classes, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And one more thing about these online platforms, they are really beneficial. I'll give you one example. There's this story called A Horse and Two Goats, and there are words like gargoyle and balustrade and whatnot. You try explaining to the children with words. Very few of them can visualize what you're trying to explain to them. But you can share your screen with them. Go to Google Images, get these images, share it instantaneously. Doubts clarified.
So what
On
you
the
mean to say
spot.
that there is the facility of a kind of content update,
Absolutely.
which can enable the children to understand things better.
Absolutely. We've got far more tools at our fingertips now. Far,
Mhm.
far more tools.
And once the teachers are at ease using these tools, I think
Absolutely.
it is just going to get better.
I'm the prime example. Someone who shunned technology and someone who swears by it now. And I'm learning every day.
Okay, Les, you
I'm
wanted to
becoming
In,
make
more
a
and more
in
aware.
comment? Mhm.
Barry, the convert is always the better Christian. Okay,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Raju, I wanted to respond to what Devyani said about.
Is there something called a reconvert? No,
I
it's
wanted to respond to
irreversible.
what Devyani said about the shy students participating. I have the great good fortune of working with 2 schools, both of which are for the learning disabled, or well, they have a large number of learning disabled children within their classrooms, and they are reporting that those children are literally blossoming because they're getting one-to-one personal attention. It's not necessarily from the teacher, it's also from the parent, because now they're getting a job to do. they're going to the parent and saying, help me, the parent is able to help them. When they were in the classroom, they were very quiet, reserved, stayed out of the spotlight, just so that they wouldn't be noticed. Now they're very happy to be noticed because they are in a safe zone, and there are no other children kind of taunting them or doing anything of that sort. So that's
So
why,
it is promoting the concept of inclusivity in a very indirect manner, right?
and I have direct experience of that. Yes.
Hmm. Okay.
Of course, what Barry said earlier and what Frenaz also mentioned, the using of new resources, this is something that's, to me, is a great wow. Teachers who never touched equipment or who got the students to do the work are now being able to, just go onto YouTube, just click on this website, just search for that, click on Google, do whatever you have to. And that is the kind of resources it's creating for education, a data bank of resources which hitherto did not, wander too far from the textbook. Today the textbook has become also ran because there's
Hmm.
material available to, and the teachers are doing it, the teachers are using it, and that's, to me, a huge wow.
So the role of the teacher is also gradually changing,
Has
from
changed.
sticking to the textbook to performing a different kind of role,
You
of
know,
Motivators. Yes,
it's
Finas?
also, the thing is that the children at +2 level, even from 9 upwards, even in our middle school, they do a lot of their own presentations, where we
Mhm.
call that peer teaching, where they are actually doing their own research and then they're teaching the class based on the information they've taken off the net from their textbooks, whatever. This has been facilitated so much better now because they have screen sharing, so they can bring in anything into the classroom, and they've done a wonderful job. There have been topics that have been taught by students, and
Hmm.
they've done a better job in some cases because they brought in so much of technology and they've used so many wonderful pictures and they've brought in information, and the whole learning process becomes that much more interesting. And
Yeah.
also, like you were saying, for teachers, like Barry was saying that he was technologically challenged, it's common across the board. There were so many teachers who would always call themselves technologically challenged. Now every teacher has been thrown in the deep end in the swimming pool, whether they can swim or not, and they've just had to learn to swim or sink, and
No, no,
everyone has
absolutely.
wonderfully risen and stayed afloat. That is amazing how everyone has embraced technology, and that's the biggest thing about this whole pandemic. That especially for a rising country like India, you need to be able to embrace technology. You have to be comfortable with it if you want to, become a superpower. And this has kind of removed this fear of technology from everyone now.
Yeah.
Everyone is learning something new every day.
So you have no choice but to swim with the tide, right? And
Absolutely.
I feel also, and panelists may have a different opinion. When I am teaching online, I also see that I am becoming more of a student, not only in terms of learning the technology, but even learning from the students.
Absolutely.
Because of the
Absolutely.
kind of boredom that they are facing now, that they are in a different situation, so you start off your class by talking about some other things, what has been new in the last week and so on. And I start learning new games from them. They tell me this game is now popular. I say, how do you play that game? Teach me. Yeah. So these are things where the teachers are also learning from the students.
And we're learning technology also from them because they're fast smarter than us on
Absolutely. And this
technology.
has brought about a kind of sea change, that teachers have come down from their high pedestal, so to speak, and have come more on an equal footing with the students. It is a
But
give and take process now.
Raju, this concept of teachers on a pedestal is a very old and outdated mode. We are facilitators. Where nobody thinks of a teacher as a pedestal, and that's the first thing a teacher recognizes today. That they can learn from students every day. You're a facilitator of information. You are definitely not a know-it-all, like walking, talking encyclopedia. And I don't
Correct.
think any teacher has the guts to even claim to be so,
No, no,
because it's just a matter of years where the children will know more than
I'm
them.
not talking from the perspective of the teachers. I'm saying from the perspective of the students. They have been brought up that way, that you don't question the teacher. Yeah. Now that is changing.
Completely.
That's totally changing now. Right. Barry, you had something to add? I think I saw your hand.
I didn't raise my hand, but there's a good question in the chat box,
Yeah.
Rajula.
No, no, we'll come to the questions in the chat box later. Now, whatever we were discussing so far, if you have something pertaining to what we were discussing, either Debjani or Barry, or less, you could add on to that.
There's one more benefit.
Mm,
We record all our meetings.
mm,
So if a child is indisposed, cannot attend the class,
yeah.
Yeah.
that recording could always be shared with that child to learn at his or her convenience.
Yes.
So even if someone is missing from a class, they haven't missed the lesson.
Mm,
So that is a huge boon, a huge boon. So even someone who's absent can still benefit from a class thanks to these recordings.
right. Right.
So I have, I'm looking at the chat box. Interestingly, I know all the people who have raised the points there. Uh, I will get there at some point in time. I think we should.
No, no, we will get to the chat box, but
Uh,
let's finish what we were talking about.
yeah. So what I wanted to say about this was that in the schools that I have worked, I have been a great champion of something called the flipped classroom, where you reduce this teacher on stage, child in the screen kind of concept, and you get them to do a lot of the preparatory work before they get to the classroom, before they get to the online video conference. Let's call it the video conference. So before the video conference, they've already put in a certain amount of work. They've already seen YouTube videos or even teacher made videos. They've already seen some presentations that the teacher has made. They've gone through sections of the book. They've tried out a few things, and all they're doing in the classroom is creatively expressing what, as Fena says, they've made presentations and they come and present those things to the rest of the class. To me, this gives us a huge opportunity for what I call formative assessment. All this time we've been just teaching, and then at the end of whatever 6 months, sometimes 3 months, we slam them on a particular day with something called the test, or call it an examination, call it an assessment, whatever you have. But on that day, the child is supposed to remember, this child is supposed to work with, the child is supposed to expose knowledge of what they know on that day. And it's supposed to reflect what they learned for 6 months, which I think is wrong. I'm glad, because online teaching now makes it interactive, can be interactive. It can also be very boring. It can be very interactive, where you give students things to do on the spot and you're making formative assessments. Children are doing their own formative assessments, in that they are doing self-correcting question papers. That's possible. It's possible with technology. The teacher can create a question paper where the children get an immediate response. It's like a video game, and they love video games, and they learn from them, and they can go back and they can review the material several times. As Barry says, a recorded classroom can be reviewed by someone who wasn't there, but a pre-recorded classroom can be reviewed several times by the weaker students before they get to class, and
Right.
therefore they can actually learn better.
Right.
So that might take us to the questions which are in the chat box.
Yes, we'll come to the questions in the chat box, but one more question I would like to direct to Debjani here. Because of your physics background, even though you're teaching mathematics now, you see, how does one go about when it comes to teaching online, when you're talking about physics practicals and chemistry practicals and so on for the higher classes? Is there a substitute for doing that in your online mode?
Unfortunately, I'll not be able to tell you as a teacher, from the point of view of a teacher, because I do not teach high classes. But then, from the point of view of a mother, I can tell you, because I have a child who's in class 12.
Yeah.
Right.
So, what I feel is that the practical part, especially that for chemistry, is a little difficult. But yes, physics we can show, we have these modules that they can see. But then hands-on is something that is just not possible. That's
Okay.
true. That's
Okay.
definitely true. But of course, if the children want, they can work them out on their own, using their own apparatus at home, and then maybe show it live to the
Mhm.
other classmates. I mean, the teacher and the peers.
Okay. Okay.
That probably is possible. But then if you don't have those things to work with, especially the chemistry practical, is not possible,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So unfortunately, that is a disadvantage that one
This is
has.
a
Yes,
Yes,
definite
Barry.
woe. This is
Barry,
a
I see your
definite
hand.
woe.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is regarding the practical classes.
Mm.
Teachers are making videos. Teachers even conducting experiments live because they have the apparatus at home. But as Debjani said, hands-on experience is so important. So we are just hoping that the West Bengal state government will allow us to allow limited numbers of students back into school after Diwali.
Mm.
So we intend to call in just the science students of class 12
Mm.
just for some practical classes
Okay.
because they need to be ready for their practicals, which will come up very soon.
Okay. One more thing I wanted to ask Srinaz about here. You see, as Leslie did touch upon the question of inclusivity of people who have some kind of disabilities, you also had wanted to mention something briefly about mental health in the context of these teaching online that we are forced to. So, if you could say that quite briefly, because you had wanted to say something about it.
See, since it's, I think one of the biggest woes of
Mm.
online teaching is the social isolation that children are facing right across from nursery right up to college level. I mean, everybody, it's just that we are so immersed in our work that we don't even have time to think in terms of wanting to socialize. But for students, this is very important to have their friends to actually talk to. What is happening is that they're only with their families, and they, and if they want to chat with their friends, it's again getting onto the phone, it's again having a video call or
Mm.
having a Zoom meeting with their friends. So there's a lot of social isolation for students, and that
Mm.
is leading to a lot of mental depression. It is. And but there is the flip side is that, as teachers, we are also able to reach out on a one to one. Like we are able to notice their expressions far better in our classroom. And we do find that there are some girls looking glum, and as soon as the classes are over, we just pick up the phone and we contact those girls and we say what's happened, and then they open up, and they kind of know that okay, there is a channel of communication open with somebody. They are able to express their fears, their issues, the stresses that they are facing, and they definitely feel better because of it. Now this wasn't so prevalent when we had actual school teaching. Communicating on the phone with children was just not something that was done, and it
Right.
wasn't even encouraged. And communicating with teachers on WhatsApp was a complete no-no. But
Yes.
this has been a huge advantage now, because even when we are sharing information, if you're teaching a subject and you have a group, a WhatsApp group just in that subject, you find your information, you put it on the group. If they have queries regarding projects, they put it on the group. Everybody gets to hear what the queries, everyone's doubts are clarified. So there is a lot more communication this way. So
Okay.
mental
Okay.
health is an issue, but there are also ways to overcome it.
All right. Fine. Yes, Leslie.
I want to add to that actually. Uh, it is a given. I mean, the fact is that people are going to get depressed, people are going to be isolated. There's all this kind of thing is happening. And I think the children have reacted and responded in a far, far better way. If you go out on the streets right now and see the puja shopping, you'll get an idea how adults are reacting. But children have just taken it for granted. They're going to be home. Yes, they are definitely missing their extracurricular activities, they're missing their social bonding, they are missing their games in class, they're missing their throwing chalk at the teachers, whatever other things they used to do and that we used to do. They're definitely missing it, but it's something that they realize is just not avoidable. And I think this is something that they've realized much more than we have. There is depression, and teachers are reaching out. Teachers, it's not only a matter of teachers, it's other people who are reaching out. And it's a term that I coined actually, well, coined. I call it distance socializing. In an organization I consult with, we have a plan of distance socializing so that we can reach out to people, find out what's happening, raise a red flag if necessary, and somebody else will get in touch with them. It's just that it's no more physical, but the distancing can be reduced a lot by socializing in other ways. So this is
So
something
that
that
is, I think,
teachers are
Leslie,
doing.
every school is doing that.
Yes.
Every school beyond academics has classes for co-curriculars. There are classes what we call motivational classes. Children are encouraged to speak out. So that what you're calling social distance
It's
connections.
socializing.
Right.
I mean,
Distance.
I think every school is doing that for sure. That is
Distanced
being done.
socializing. Distanced
Distance
socializing
socializing.
is
So I
what
think that
Leslie has coined. Yeah.
we haven't used that fancy word, but we are definitely doing it, and as I'm sure every other school is.
Hardly
All
fan.
right. Yes, Barry. And Devjani also wants to say, let Barry go first.
Yeah, in our school, we have yoga sessions, we have Kriya, basically teaching breathing techniques and breathing patterns and whatnot, reducing stress levels. We also have a wonderful group of counselors. And whenever a teacher raises a red flag regarding any student, the counselor is contacted and very discreetly contact is made and issues are discussed and sorted out. First, I mean, if it's something easy enough for the teacher to deal with, the teacher handles it directly. If not, it's the case is recommended to the counselor.
Okay.
So
So,
we notice, as Finas had said, by simply looking at the grid on your laptop screen,
mhm,
you can make out a lot from a child's face. You can
mhm.
make out a lot.
If the camera is on.
No, we insist
We
on it.
insist on cameras being
We
on.
insist on the camera being on.
Yeah, but then in a lot of places, the children also have the excuse of connectivity.
Of connectivity, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and
But
they say if I put on my camera, my bandwidth is not able to take it. You see,
true.
that's a thing that one faces regularly. Fine. Yes, of course. When I
That's a
was,
disciplinary issue that is like any other disciplinary issue. It depends on the level of discipline in a school, I think.
yeah, yes, and Devjani has been following the disciplinary issue of putting up a hand. So we have to go
No,
to
what I was,
her and
yeah, what I was
take her
trying to
in.
say is, you don't need the school to do anything as such. The children these days, I mean, Gen Y, they are all into this. I mean, helping each other online, always. You'll always find them chatting with each other, helping each other out. At least that's what I have seen as a parent, because for working parents we have always not been there for the child, so they know how to help each other. That has
Right.
been,
So that is a thing they learn automatically.
yes, it's,
Mm.
I guess, I mean, survival strategies.
It's survival strategies. Okay. If there are no more hands up with the panelists, I'll take one of the questions now from Jennifer Gadgil, who says, I would like to say that performance has dropped and the children have lost the habit of writing or expressing their own views. Uh, who would like to take that question? Do you agree or disagree?
No, I think that's very subjective. Maybe speak with Ms. Gadgil and ask her why does she make such a claim. I'm not saying she's wrong, but why does she make such a claim?
No, she has made the experience. We are sharing experiences now. So she has put her experience in the chat box that she feels that they have lost the habit of writing and expressing themselves, their own views. And
But
if your experience has been
we
different, you
we
just have to say that.
we still demand
As an English
we
teacher.
still demand of our children do they.
Yeah, so the thing is that as of now in Mumbai, they have not yet been given a full paper where they are being tested on an essay or a letter or a report or an article writing. And it's just been the MCQ questions so far. So when I gave them an essay to write and along with a letter, I found that one, all the effort I had taken in helping them to learn certain presentation skills and wanting to put the paper, write the paper in a neat way had gone for a toss, because I did it a whole 4 months after the lockdown, because for the first 3 months there was no way to get any papers. Now with
I
the
see.
a little bit of a relaxation, okay, the papers have come in. That's where I have seen. So there
Okay.
were no proper margins. There were no proper paragraph forms. There was no date put. All these little things that one teaches them as part of what you write is as important as how you write. All went for a toss. Okay.
Ma'am, I do agree with you that net practice is very important.
Yep.
The exercises and assignments we have been setting at my school in particular, we haven't stopped. I mean, we continue with the board pattern of papers. We still give assignments in writing essays and reports, comprehension passages, and they have to present it handwritten, albeit in a PDF form. They take photographs, compile a PDF, and upload it. But it is still handwritten. So in our case, we are having constant practice. That's why I said
Right.
it could be
It's
subjective.
subjective. It is
So-
subjective.
I
That's
guess
the
that's
normal.
there for
Yeah, one at a time, please. One at a time, please. Yeah. Yes, Divjani.
yes, this is there for all the Kolkata schools. We are all doing it handwritten.
Right.
So it's not a
See,
problem
I
with
think
us.
that even when you had actual school, there were always complaints from some schools that they don't give enough written work, there's not enough assessment, things are not corrected. And you will still have those complaints now. So, you can't
Yes.
generalize. It just depends from school to school. And the schools that maintain standards then will still maintain it now. And those that didn't maintain standards then will not maintain it now. So it's very difficult to say that this is happening everywhere. Because I agree with Barry, even us, the English teachers are big, like uh, they're exhausted with the corrections that they have, but they're doing it exactly the way they would have if it had been a physical classroom. They're taking up as many assessments exactly in the same way as he said. So I guess it depends from school to school.
All right. Fine. Thank you. Thank you about that. Barry was referring earlier to the fact that, they should be having net practice. I'm sure he didn't mean internet practice, right?
No.
No. Right. I would like to take up a question which had come earlier with the registration already, right? Uh, Now, how about now assignments, fine, handwritten and so on. How are you people coping with conducting examinations online?
Who will go first, Rajula?
Yeah, whoever. Yeah, Barry, you can go
Okay.
first.
We have something called a code of conduct, a code of honor, rather. And we appeal to the students to, to be true to that code of honor. We also have asked the parents to proctor the examinations. Now, beyond that, we can't do anything else. So everything is based on the honor system, and we want the parents to proctor the exam. They should be with the child the moment the writing time begins. They should write down the time at which the child has started writing, at what time the child finished writing, at what time the child uploaded the paper. So we also expect the minimum from the parents. They are collaborators, they are stakeholders as we are, and they need to play their role too. Now, I have read answers, superlative answers, which I did not expect from certain students. It's very obvious they have opened another tab online or they've used another device. I've even accused a child of cutting and pasting an answer. He did not refute my accusation. He admitted so.
Mhm.
You could make out, the font type, the font size.
No, as teachers, you can make out in any case if they cut and paste.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a limit to what we can do. We can appeal to you to follow a code of honor. We can appeal to the parents to proctor the examinations. But beyond that, there's nothing much. We have to leave it to their integrity.
Yes.
Okay, I think Frenaz, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add that Barry is absolutely right. See, even we take whatever assessments, tests, whatever, it's a Zoom over a Zoom meeting, the camera's on. But at the end of the day, we tell our students that this is not just a test of your academics, it's also a test of your conscience. And I think this is something that will take time for them to realize, for parents also to realize, because even in primary schools, parents are as eager as their children to get the marks for their child in any which way. The thing is that it's going to take a while, but I'm hoping that this will help people to sort of think differently, because this struggle for marks and getting marks any way you want is not really going to help at the end. So it's like, when you have temptation, you're going to take it, but after a point of time, you start not expecting to be policed, but you start using your own conscience. We've done too much of policing in the past, and it's time to let them evolve their own ethical standards.
Do you
And
think
yes, in the beginning, they will cheat, but at some point, they will realize that this is not going to get them. There will be a board exam. It'll be caught up. At some point of time, their lack of knowledge is going to catch up with them at some point of time.
Okay, you're talking about conscience. You make it sound as if we were going back to our moral science days in school. You see, so we
Well,
had a
it's time
subject.
we did.
We
It's
had
time
a
we did.
subject called moral science. Yes,
It is the
Les.
most important subject, Rajula. The most
Yeah,
important.
Mandatory subject.
Les, you had your hand up.
Yeah,
I think.
with regard to assessments, I attended an interesting webinar recently in which this lady who's a director of a school made a very interesting point. She said, why are we, except for examination classes or board classes, and even the board doesn't know what's happening, why are we focusing on assessment? Why aren't we focusing on learning? And if you're focusing on the learning, then the assessment is not such a big thing. The marks are not important. If you're focusing on people going from stage A to stage B and finding out ways to uh, establish that, then you're doing a better job than conducting examinations, which people will cheat. People will take help from outside. People will open Google tabs and whatever they have to do. So she was suggesting that we should A, first look at caring for the children. B, we should look at learning. And lastly, we can look at some form of assessment, but it's not going to make a big dent in the child's future if he does not have first term examinations. As simple as that. So that's my
Okay.
take on this.
Okay. Barry and Debjani both have something to say. Barry, go
Yes.
first.
This year's board exams could not be completed. And therefore, to allot a mark for those particular papers, they use internal marks, right? And so we are doing the same thing this year. We are compiling marks in case the board examinations cannot be held. And they will ask us to send in some internal marks on which they can base the results of the candidate. And I agree with Les and the teacher, the head of school, he was quoting, but we also need some marks at the board level, just in case they need those internal marks.
Which is why I said board, except for board examinations. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Debjani also had to say something about this. Yeah.
Yes, what I was trying to say is, when you're talking about conscience, it is pertaining only to the older kids. As far as my kids are concerned, the younger ones, see, they don't, like, if you tell them don't cheat, maybe they will not. But it's the parents at times who want the marks. Why did you not do well? Where did that 1 mark go? Why did you not write what I taught you or your teacher taught you? So, it's then that they have this tendency of cheating, or maybe the parent actually doing the work for the teacher. So this is the reason we are doing it. We have, let me finish.
Yes, we're coming to you. Just a moment. Let Debjani finish.
We are doing away with all sorts of prizes at the end of the year-end prizes. Like you have the first position, like you've got the highest marks and all that. We have done away with it. So the temptation to do better than the other child is not there.
Okay.
And we have told the children also, like, this is a time where you take it slow, judge yourself, see where you stand. This is the time where you are learning. You're going to learn, not how much you have scored.
Okay.
So that way, we are like, sort of brainwashing the child. That this is what you have to do to keep your conscience clean.
Okay. Hopefully you get the support of the parents in this. Barry?
Yes,
I am. Fortunately, I am.
A witty intervention based on what Debjani had shared.
Right.
I was, we were having a middle school extempore competition, and I was one of the judges online. And a child was delivering her piece. She had selected a particular topic. She started speaking, and she fumbled. Now, a parent off camera, but very, very audible, started prompting her. And the child turned crimson and switched off the camera and logged off. That parent had embarrassed the child so badly.
Yeah, I know. Parents are often embarrassing their children by intervening, which they should not be doing, right? The children don't want that most of the time.
Not at all.
Yeah. Frenaz, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to say that, this whole concept of memorizing, shutting your textbook and answering is becoming very outdated. And in fact, the new education policy couldn't have come in a day earlier. And it is now stretching on actually open book examinations where you are asked to analyze. So Debjani, because you are in the younger classes where your children will eventually be sitting for those kind of exams, this is the right time to start having open book exams where or assessments or whatever, let their books be open, but ask them questions where they have to think. So the need to cheat is not there, the need to think is there. And that is where the focus needs to be, because this memory work is so outdated. You have internet at your fingertips. Absolutely. You don't need to memorize anything. What you need to do is to be able to understand what is there in front of you, analyze it, discern it, etc. So that is what has sort of come in this new education policy. And of course, at our +2 level, these children are going to face the same kind of exam. But for the younger classes, they will be coming up with that kind of questioning. So this is the right time to actually encourage open book examinations, where let all the matter be open, let them apply themselves to it.
Absolutely.
Some schools had already done it. They've been doing it for a long time.
All
Few
right.
schools.
Les, did you want to add something to what is being discussed here?
Yeah, there's just one comment I want to make, because I made it earlier, and I think there's somebody out here who has said, is this limited to a certain socio-economic class? I want to say that all the speakers here can only respond from their own background. So
Yeah.
if it sounds like a particular socio-economic class, that's all we can do, and it's a very limited time. We really can't take much. But with regard to assessments, I think creativity in assessment is now becoming more important, and it's going to separate the, for lack of a better word, the men from the boys as far as teaching is concerned. Teachers will have to be far more creative. They'll have to do a little bit more homework in trying to figure out assessments that work better in a non-controlled atmosphere. I think that, to me, would be very important.
Okay. Yes, Barry.
Talking about socioeconomic classes, we have a free school called Shri Kripa, and we absorb the children once they've reached a certain level of proficiency. We call them scholars, but they're all from very economically stressed backgrounds. So what our school did is that we purchased tabs for them, and we sent it to their homes to facilitate learning. That's the
Yeah, but that is something that is being done across the board. Even universities have been cribbing about the digital divide. That's why they couldn't start online classes.
absolutely.
And Jadavpur University has taken the initiative to give
And
tabs to students.
and regarding what Pranaz had
connectivity.
just said,
Yeah.
again, all our examinations are based on recall. So the teachers now have to learn how to set papers in a new manner, where you ask children to apply what they learn, not just to vomit it out. So we also have to learn how to set papers accordingly. So it's no more recall.
Okay, there's one more question which had come earlier with the registration, which I would like to take up and lob it to any of the panelists. The question was, is there a role for content on demand as part of online teaching of regular curriculum? Tutorials are already doing this. How is the formal schooling system dealing with this or going to deal with this?
Can I?
Yes, Les?
So I'm not even sure what is meant by content in demand in this particular case, but there are already a large number of organizations, including people like Google and Genio and uh, the Khan Academy, to name a few, who are providing this content for not only for individual students to sign up and use, but also for teachers to sign up and use within their classroom. So if that's what is meant by it, the system already exists. However, the schools in India are still coming to grips with the situation. There is no textbook which has been written yet as to how to deal with this COVID pandemic situation. Teachers have done a fantastic job of getting themselves overnight online, and they are still learning the processes. There are many things to be learnt. I can tell you that the kind of study I am doing currently, I can happily share with teachers over a long period of time, because there's so much of creative work that can actually be done. A simple thing like making better videos so that your children are interested, involved, incentivized to look at them and learn from them, rather than putting a camera up in front of your face and talking into it. I think this is something that I can teach. And if teachers are ready to, and I have a whole list of them, which I can share at some other point in time, of teachers who've actually done this first time videos, top quality stuff. And the children are saying, wow, ma'am, we didn't know you could do this. Okay. I worked with a design academy, Bhawanipur College, where the entire design academy had said, come on, teach us how to show them dressmaking online. I mean, I had to think it through. And then finally, the lady who teaches dressmaking says, wait, let me make a video and show you how it's done. So I said, good, now take that video, send it to your students, ask them to bring the materials to the class the next day and let them show you how they're going to do it. And she did it. And she said, wow, I've never achieved so much in one class in my life. But these are facts. And I've
Yeah,
got
but
all that recorded.
no, the thing is, you see, you make the students more involved, you will be able to extract much more out of them in any
They
case. Yeah.
become responsible for themselves, and that's more important, I think.
Right. Devjani, you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say what Leslie said it after all.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. You see, now, Leslie, whatever you said, reminds me of this. We have got an organization of which I am the president. It's called Vichitra Pathshala. And Vichitra Pathshala, uh, about 4 5 years ago, has introduced something called cinema in the classroom, moving images in the classroom, like how to approach different subjects by using these tools in the classroom, even in the physical classroom, you see. And that has been a great success because the moving images have a much deeper impact and a much more instant impact as far as students are concerned. So you start uh, building up your own material, how to explain something in physics better. Then we did a kind of lesson competition for teachers from different schools. And most of your schools were also part of it, you see. So there were teachers from schools who presented innovative lesson plans for their own subjects. And there was a competition which was held and judged at the Birla Industrial and Technological Museum for 2 3 years consecutively. And prize awards were given to the teachers, which motivated the teachers to try even newer methods as far as these innovations are concerned. And that is what Leslie is trying to say now also, that what these kind of innovations will have to be made. And now that we have been thrown into the swimming pool and have to swim with the tide, so there is no other way. You have to be innovative and creative. And that's the only way forward. So I would like to take, we have already crossed our time. I would like to take one last closing comment from each panelist. So I would like to start with Barry.
Even when the lockdown is lifted and it's safe to return to school, we are not going to abandon our newly acquired tech skills. We are going to use it to supplement our classroom teaching. I know I am going to do that.
Yeah, that's a wow. You can only say wow to that. Yeah.
That is a huge wow.
Yeah. Okay. Devjani?
What I'd like to say is this pandemic situation, this is so unique, it has never happened before. And God willing, it will never happen again. But then, as it is here, let's make the most out of it, and let's like give more time to family and more classroom interactions and rise above the academics and discuss life as in general. Like, take life as it comes. It is a life lesson these children, this generation has learned. Like, we don't expect anything, expect the unexpected, sort of. So
Yeah,
let's
you're
slow it
you're
down and
you're absolutely right, Devjani, because I have recently had experiences with students who have almost completed their engineering and with top marks, very good performances, but don't know very much about real life in any case. The general knowledge is happening. So you're very right that there are a
sad,
lot of
actually.
things about life that we need to share outside the curriculum also with the students and the children. Right. Thank you, Devjani. Finaz?
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Devjani. That is what the biggest learning for our students and for ourselves has been. For teachers, it's been that we've been reinventing ourselves every day. We have been thinking on our feet. We are always trying to better whatever we've done, find better ways to handle situations. So we are constantly evolving and changing and learning. And I think for children, they have learned the importance of resilience. There have been children who have faced a lot of problems through this time. There are families who've lost a family member. There have been illness. There's been so much of crowding in homes. And these children have risen above all these things. And I think that has been the biggest learning for them. They started out with a lot of fear and anxiety about the future. But one thing I think they've kind of settled down to is that the only constant is the unknown, and that they are ready to embrace whatever happens and take on the challenge. I think that has been a huge learning for them in that respect. They have grown up overnight. And
Yeah.
therefore, that I think has been the biggest wow of this entire period.
Yes, Pranav, very well put. Thank you very much. That has been a great vow, of course. And also, as times are changing and as we are put into these kind of situations, what has happened also is this inherent aversion to change that was inherent in all of us. You all remember the days when the banks tried to bring in computerization. All the banks went on strike. Nobody wanted to do that. And it was years before one was able to even incorporate that in some way, you see. So there was an inherent aversion to change within each one of us. And that is rapidly changing. Just as you said, now we have learned to change, we have learned to adapt. So that aversion to change is slowly disappearing. And that is a very positive thing and a vow to be proud of, I think. Yeah. And Les, your closing statement?
Okay, I think we should look at this as a huge opportunity, not only for teachers, schools, parents, administration, the whole world. I mean, we should be looking at this as an opportunity. And I think there are three, kind of a triangle, if you like, of three representing change. One is the tool set change. The tool sets have changed. And if we don't get to use those tool sets, we're going to have more woes than wows. Then, secondly, is the skill set change. Because the tools have changed, our skill sets have had to change, as Barry pointed out very clearly, as many people have pointed out in the chat as well. The quality of questions, the quality of assessment, the quality of teaching, all has to change. It's a skill set that needs to change. But the most important is the mindset change. If we don't change our mindsets and we're always going to hope that COVID is going to go away tomorrow morning, like was promised by many politicians, it's not going to happen. And that when the mindset changes, we'll go back to Barry's opening statement. You will automatically take these changes back into the classroom when you get back into the classroom. You will do peer teaching, you'll do collaborative learning, you'll do project-based learning, you'll do group learning. All this is going to happen when you get back to the classroom, if and when it happens. But meanwhile, it can happen right now, and I think that opportunity should not be lost. That's my final word on this.
Yes, thank
I'm
you,
also
Les.
sorry, Raju. This is just for the audience. If it's such a big topic that you want to talk about this some more, I'm prepared to have another session next Wednesday, purely on technical grounds, on how teachers are handling things on the technical level. If teachers are interested, we can have another session a week from now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That is another area altogether, the nitty-gritty of the technological aspect of it. Yes, Leslie has made it very clear that Corona sure is there to stay, and all we can do is have peaceful coexistence, like people who have diabetes for 30 years, like me. You have to learn is to keep it under control, take precautions, and coexist peacefully. So possibly that is the way forward, that you be prepared for coexisting with all these kind of difficulties and these kind of hurdles, and yet find a way out which is for the benefit of all concerned, whether it be the teachers, whether it be the students, whether it be the school administrators, school management, or whether it be anybody else, the parents also. So it has to be a win-win situation for everyone concerned, and that ideally should be the way forward. So I would like to end on this note. There were a lot of comments on the chat box which people can read, because in school we often learned something called Pressy writing, right? So where you had to put a long text in one third of its size. And when I am moderating debates, chairing debates, I always say when there is a question, the question can be only maximum 20 seconds, and the response should be 40 seconds. Now, because that is not being followed even in the chat box, it is very difficult to take up all those questions, because the questions themselves are so lengthy, like some of the questions we get in our syllabus oriented question papers, you see. So, okay, but nevertheless useful. So, I would request everyone to have a peek into the chat box as well for all the comments that everyone has made, because there is some takeaway from that too. Yes, Les, you have something else to add?
I was wondering if Tanya wants to come online, and
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
else who wants to show us their faces, because I like to see faces.
yeah. Tanya, are you there
Yes, yes, I'm very much there.
with the dinner? Yeah, fine.
No, I finished making.
Right.
No, I just want to thank everyone who was on the panel today. And I think from a parent's point of view, um, we've even we have undergone a huge change, and I guess it's a change for the better. We've learned a lot. This pandemic has its woes and has caused a lot of woes in the school life of a child, but it has a lot more wows. which I think we were able to bring out today in a very, and it's giving a very, it's basically leaving everybody with a very positive feeling that in spite of everything, we can overcome all the what should I say, all the big problems that we are being faced with. So thank you so much to all our panelists, to Leslie, to Raju, and you know, I think this is really nice, and we should look at maybe having another sessions on Wednesday. Leslie.
Right. Maybe they'll do. And of course, from my side, thank you to all the panelists for cooperating so well and not making it a Republic TV and talking together. And of course, Leslie for all the technical help. Yes, Barry, you have something else to say?
Leslie, Andrew Williams is asking if this recording will be available on
Yeah, the
YouTube.
recording is already on YouTube. The YouTube link is a recording, but I will send out a recording to all the people who have registered. Uh, I'll
And
send out a link.
it will be available on YouTube in any
Yes,
case.
it will
Yeah.
be available on YouTube as well.
That's great.
Right. Right, absolutely. And I would like to really thank Dalhousie Institute also for providing us this platform to exchange our views on such an important issue. And for all those who have tuned in, thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. And I'm sure that the discussion will be carried forward as and when we make more experiences. Probably in another quarter of an year, we get back again to take stock to see where have we proceeded from here, right? Thank you all and good
Thank you
night.
very much, Raju.
Thank
And
you.
and
Thank
wish all
you.
of
Thank you,
you
Barry.
happy pujas in